What's up, folks? Welcome back to the stream. It's Tuesday. We are becoming tactical today, except that for Tactical Tuesday, they've decided to give us the most untactical army in Warhammer 40k. It's World Eaters Day, chat. How's it going, everybody? We could talk about some of these new red boys. I know there's been a lot of discussion surrounding this faction, given the fact that they're almost entirely melee attack oriented, and melee attacks looks like they might be eating in 11th edition. We'll see how things go. And yeah, as always, what we'll be doing today is going through this article talking about World Eaters as well as the video at the same time, so we can talk about the things that they put in the video but they don't put into the article. I don't think I have anything else to talk about before we get started, so let's just hop into it, I guess. Let's go. As soon as I figure out where I put my video. Here we go.
Right, well, let's dive in with the first of those detachments. We've got the Butchers of Khorne.
I skipped the intro for you.
The focus is on boring. Terminator squads.
Yes, this is all about...
So, I think we started with the third detachment, which is helpful, thank you. All right, there we go. The second detachment. Terminator-focused detachment. Let's go.
We don't quite call them Red Butchers yet, but this is all about those said units.
Oh,
and
he said yet. He said we don't call them Red Butchers yet. Maybe the Red Butchers. Red Butchers confirmed?
This is an amazing ability. Whilst a friendly Terminator squad is engaged, you will make that unit-specific Blessings of Khorne roll. You will roll 8 dice and select one of the Blessings of Khorne to be active exclusively for that squad for the remainder of the fight, I guess, for the remainder
and you
of the
get
turn.
that as well as the normal Blessings, which are
Dude,
wide.
It's in addition. It is really, really powerful.
So as long as you've got your Terminators where Khorne wants them to be, which is taking skulls.
Correct. So you can see you have the perfect information before you commit the squad to the fight, because of course you'll roll at the start of your player turn, and you'll determine which of your Blessings of Khorne are active, and then once you make it to the fight, you can make another roll and select the one you missed out on or the one you were trying to get. So theoretically, you
don't know if
quite
that's
get the
perfect
roll that you wanted.
information.
I think this is a fantastic ability. It's extremely powerful
Because you don't know what the second Blessings of Khorne will be.
That could be devastating wounds. You get
sort of like I don't know. It's a little disingenuous, I guess. Let's take a quick peek at their profile. It's been a while since we've looked at World Eaters Terminators. If I could friggin' find where they live. Holy crap. So the World Eaters one gets reroll hits against the closest enemy unit and reroll charges against the closest enemy unit. That ability is going to need to be reworded. Because you no longer target units when you make a charge roll. So we'll have to see what they actually end up doing. I imagine, at the end of the day, it'll probably just end up being reroll charges. If you roll a charge, then you fail it, you'll be like, oh, I'll target the closest thing, and then you reroll it. So it'll probably be very, very similar, but that is not perfectly compatible with how the charges will work in the new edition. Unfortunate. We're talking about either 3 2-damage melee attacks or 5 twin-linked 1-damage melee attacks. If, based on the size of the unit, right, we can get up to 10 Terminators in a brick. And for every 5, we get a paired weapon profile. Otherwise, we're just playing with power fists or cursed weapons. These guys do need a little bit of help because just the, amount of damage that we can expect out of a 3-attack model is not particularly exciting. If we are able to combo this with something like a Berserker Warband, so we get the bonuses on the charge to push up that damage output, that's very helpful. And additional Velocity Cord is obviously going to be good. We could be like a swinging lethal and sustain, for example, from these guys pretty consistently. So we'll see. This sad part about that is, unlike what they said in the video, you don't know what your abilities are at the time you go to attack, because, or at the time you go to charge, because you don't make the Blessing of Khorne roll until start of fight. So it could be that you're like, oh man, if I'm fighting enemy Terminators, if I get devastating against infantry, this is gonna be great. And then you flub it, and you're like, all right, well I got fucking what are the bad ones? like a fight on death. Like a fight on death is really bad. If you're about to swing with that unit, then you know, could be sort of not optimal. So a little random. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how things end out.
Giving out exclusively to that unit that could already be having sustained and so many other different abilities attached to it. I think this is fundamental to Terminators getting straight back into the game.
And they only get better, really, with the enhancements and the stratagems. So one of the enhancements we've got there is Gore-Stained Veterans. This is an upgrade, which means it applies to the entire unit, and it makes that Terminator squad even punchier.
Just hits on 2s. Weapon skill plus 1 weapon skill. They'll just hit on 2s
good.
unless there's any negative modifiers.
Can confirm. Solid.
Usually you would have to attach a character that would bring a like-minded ability. In a lot of ways, we talk about the mathematical efficacy of sustained hits.
The problem is that, like, if I charge with my Terminator squad, there's a not unreasonable chance that if I need one of the more difficult Blessings of Corn to activate, there's a not unreasonable chance that I will simply not get it, right? On the turn that I charge. You could do it on your opponent's turn, I guess, but this being World Eaters, I think you are mostly looking for the kill on the charge, right? I don't know if you're that like as excited about eating comping the return attack. So I don't know.
Oh, you might.
Being similar to hitting on 2s. It's a similar exchange to hitting on 2s. You drop the 1s and 2s off, but the 6s get added in as opposed to replacing the 2s. When you just have sustained or lethals or devastating wounds or any of the other myriad abilities you get for the blessings roll, and plus 1 weapon skill, that unit just levels up.
That's a good call out. Is that the Blessing of Corn roll? You make 1 Blessing of Corn roll for every engaged Terminator squad. It's not 1 for each. It's 1 for all of them.
Briong 6931 donated $5 through Super Chat. GW in 11, Trevi use the app for list building and rules. Are the codex free? No Trevi.
Here's
choose
the thing,
trial
chat.
by combat.
So like I mean because like I do basically all my interaction with Warhammer 40k is on my desktop computer. Because like I make content for it, so I'm sitting here making content, and then when I play games, 90% of my games are on Tabletop Simulator, so I'm sitting here playing on TTS. And so people are like, why don't you use my app? And I'm like, well, it's a second machine I would have to go use. So people are like, oh, use the GW app. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to go to my phone to look at rules or to build army lists when the place where I need those army lists is on my desktop computer. I recognize too that I'm like extremely like individual in that, but that is one of the reasons that I don't use the Warhammer 40k app.
And I think this is fantastic. It's a unit upgrade as well. It's not attached to a character.
So you can put it on a big unit of 10 Terminators. All of a sudden, all of those guys hitting on 2s, even the Chain Fist to be hitting on 3s.
Yep.
That's pretty scary.
Those will be rated E for everyone.
Yeah, cool. And then some great stratagems to go with that as well. The first of them, Trophy for the Throne.
Like Tim was like, yeah, man. All right, Adam.
This is again used on a Terminator squad and makes it punch harder into the really big stuff.
Yes, this is 1 command point, fight phase, of course. It's World Eaters, it's pretty much all going to be fight phase. But your unit's attacks against monsters and vehicles will have +1 to wound. Now, there are, of course, anti-monster, anti-vehicle abilities that are available
pretty good.
for the Exalted 8-bound. But outside the Exalted 8-bound, you did find in the
That's a
previous
good
edition
strat.
there was a
1
certain
command
ceiling
point, too.
on what a Terminator squad could and couldn't fight. And I'm here to tell you this 1 command point stratagem really changes that.
So you're talking about a unit that's potentially got +1 to hits. It's got 2 of the blessings on it. It's got +1 to wound as well.
Yep.
They are starting to punch pretty high up the food chain, aren't they?
Correct. You're starting to just say, oh, how many dice are you rolling? That's a lot. How many abilities do you have? That's also a lot. And what are you wounding on? Oh, yeah, this is going to be rough.
Yeah, they're going to make a mess.
It just keeps going and going.
And then the last of those abilities is one that helps keep that unit alive, right? So you're going to invest heavily into those Terminator units. Probably you're going to have 2 or 3 units in an army like this. You're going to want to keep them alive. This last stratagem helps you do that.
Absolutely. This is 2 command points that just come at quite a premium. But this is your opponent's shooting phase when a friendly Terminator unit has been selected. It's -1 damage. It is extremely powerful on your 3 wound chassis, that comes with the Terminators. Of course, all having a 2-up save, 4-up invulnerable
say how
save,
many
and then
command
-1
points?
damage. All of a sudden, all those 3 damage weapons in the game that people have been taking a lot of recently really lose effectiveness.
And quite a lot of armies
4-hand phase, when it from this is
2 or 3 units in an army like
quite a premium, but this is your
this. Last stratagem helps you do that.
absolutely. This is 2 command points. So it's
TCP.
quite a premium, but this is your opponent's shooting phase.
Yeah.
Save and then
That does
-1
make
damage.
sense. Like minus damage, incredibly strong. You will have the Demon Prince, that can reduce it, but that is a very strong stratagem. Honestly, I mean, this ability is like not bad for sure. It is a little random, but I guess like it would be probably too consistent if it was just like pick a Blessing Core, you get it. But it's making 2 separate Blessing Core rolls just help you for the best. I guess is a little bit awkward sometimes. However, especially because there's a bunch of them that may not affect you, right? That's the issue. If it was like you get a random ability, but all the abilities are good, that's great. But you could bless and then like either get stuff you already have or not get the ones you're looking for. But we'll see. But the stratagems in this detachment seem phenomenal. A blanket +1 wound against monsters and vehicles, which let's be real, that's probably where we need +1 wound. Especially if you combine this with something like a Berserker Warband that makes these guys hit harder. You're now coming in at like strength 10, strength 7 on a lot of these profiles with keywords and +1 wound. That's spooky. And then a -1 damage is incredibly good. That's essentially what you need for these big, punchy, heavy infantry bricks to do stuff. So it seems strong.
All of a sudden, all those 3 damage weapons in the game that people have been taking a lot of
Be
recently.
good at killing best Terminator unit. Half as good.
Damage 3 and then those profiles down by.
This is Vessels of Wrath, and you can do
Vessels
some very
of
scary
Wrath.
stuff with the combinations here.
Absolutely. So
They
your
should have
World
made this
Eaters
one about
characters,
ships.
excluding epic heroes, so will not benefit Angron or Khan the Betrayer. But when they're selected to fight, you can select one of 2 abilities to be active for.
All right, so this is a retread of one of the ones we already have. Which is currently, this is the one where you give an additional Blessing of Corn to unit champions or characters, non-epic hero characters. And now, instead, it just either gives AP or cleave. So a good buff into heavier stuff or a good buff into light infantry.
Just that character model. You get +1 AP if you choose, or you get cleave 1. Eddie, tell us about cleave.
So Cleave is effectively blast.
So I believe that they said, Chad, just to clarify, I believe that they said that, if not most of, or if not all of, I think most of the Codex attachments will be 2 detachment points. So what we're operating on right now is that the revealed detachments in these articles are 1, and the Codex detachments are 2. I don't think they've said anything to indicate that's otherwise. But we'll see, obviously.
But in close combat, so it means that you get more attacks when you're fighting into a very numerous enemy unit. So Cleave 1 would give you an extra 1 attack into a unit of 5 models. If you're fighting into a unit of 20 models, you'd get an extra 4 attacks. So it can make those characters into absolute blenders.
Each time you gather... Oh, this is great. We get to see a little bit of how attacks work. Each time you gather attack dice for a Cleave weapon, if you've only selected 1 target for all that weapon's attacks, add X additional attack dice for every 5 models in the target unit. In the select target step, for example, if Cleave 1 has an attacks characteristic of 3 targeting a unit containing 16 models, you would gather 3 additional attack dice for a total of 6. Gather attack dice. Attack dice is a keyword. I almost wonder if like a weapon activation is has a sequence now. Like you have a select weapon, gather attack dice, roll hit dice, like roll wound dice. And if attacks are now dice that are added or removed from a pool, that's much cleaner than what we have right now, which is frankly a fucking nightmare. So yeah, I like that, chance.
to enemy infantry.
Also, we love the idea
you
of cleave.
mentioned, the Blessings of Corn roll can give you sustained hits, which can be a multiplier, snowballing factor here when you're getting blast in combat. My mind was blown when I heard about this ability. It is such a game changer for World Eaters, and I think cleave is going to be key to this detachment really taking off.
Yeah, so the carnage doesn't stop there, though, because the enhancements and the stratagems also make your characters even more deadly. My favourite one, I think, possibly in this whole set for World Eaters, is...
There's a funny clause here where it implies that demon princes can lead units, which I don't think is correct. But that's sort of what it says. Your demon prince and any lucky world eaters they happen to be leading into a killing machine. I don't know, man. I don't know about that one.
Arch Slaughterer. This is a once-a-game ability where your character can get every blessing of Khorne.
Every single one. This is incredible and takes that character to Primarch level combat ability and beyond. This is absolutely crazy when you take into account how many other multiplying buffs could be active for that fight as well. I think Arch Slaughterer is as close to always being taken in this detachment as it could be.
It's really fun as well. Like, it's definitely a one-off, so you only get to use it once, but you've basically got your laser-guided character who's just going to go into the biggest scariest thing you can find.
So, like, what is the sum of those abilities, chat? You get, and it's until the start of your next turn, so you'll get it through your opponent's turn as well. You'll get reroll charges, expanded pile and consolidate, 4+ fight on death, lethal, sustain, and devastating against infantry, all together in one guy. That's a spooky combo. Especially with like expanded engagement ranges. I mean, charges is going to be harder, so getting easier access to real charges is good, and that is a benefit for any of these effects that give you they give you additional buses of Khorne, like the Terminator one we just talked about, because you can construct a situation where like you can get reroll charges because your charges are going to be 1 inch more difficult to get. So I think blanket reroll charge effects are going to be more helpful, and then being able to flip into the offensive buffs later is good. Having this guy get all the offensive buffs and the charge reroll automatically is fucking sick. Let's go. Who has bigger biceps, an orc or a space marine? Orcs do. I think canonically, orcs are bigger. They're just physically bigger and more muscular. But space marines are like all, gene edited like weirdness, and so they're actually stronger typically. Canonically, outside of like big war bosses or whatever. Although space marines, I think, still go toe to toe until you're like Ghazghkull Thraka's level. Sick. Well, I like worst case scenario. This ability is kind of fun. I like it. That's an enhancement for a character. So as far as I know, any of these enhancements that do not say upgrade are locked to character only. The upgrades can be taken multiple times and can be taken on non-character units. So, however, this will affect the entire unit because when you use the ability, the Blessing Cord is active for the unit. It's also likely that this can be combined with an upgrade, but we don't know that 100% for sure. Because you now have to pre-declare character attachments, there's the potential that there is a clause that an enhanced character cannot join an enhanced unit. But we'll see. Cool. Good stuff.
Unlock all of the buffs immediately, roll for the fences, and just go for it.
That one time when it happens, when your opponent is like, oh, what abilities did you roll this turn? And you say, irrelevant, I'd slaughter all of them. We'll slam every ability.
Irrelevant.
If you wanted to make him even scarier,
it doesn't matter.
There's a few stratagems that help you out as well. One of them is Aspire to Infamy. So again, pick one of your characters. You can give him another +1 attack and +2 strength. That's on top of the fact you've already got Cleave or +1 AP and every Blessing of Khorne if you've taken the enhancement.
This is an interesting thing, chat. So a lot of the stuff, and we talked about this with the Adeptus Sororitas thing, a lot of the stuff does not specify the end point. So we were talking about the Hagiom effects or whatever from the Adeptus Sororitas yesterday. And it specified that like you in a phase, you choose an effect and you get that effect, period. However, I'm noticing that basically none of these stratagems have an end point. And I have a sneaking suspicion that there is a blanket rule that now says when an effect is used in a phase, it affects you for only that phase. Right? So, like, Trophy for the Throne says when a Terminator unit is selected to fight, your unit's attacks the target a monster vehicle unit at +1 to wound. It doesn't say the unit's attacks this turn or this phase or until the end of the phase, but the when does specify fight phase. So I would assume, now just noticing this verbiage, that basically everything in the game only lasts for the phase in which you use it, unless otherwise specified. So I bet like the waffling we did about the enhancement for Adeptus Sororitas yesterday was probably irrelevant because it doesn't need to specify an endpoint because the core rules specify the endpoint. That's going to be my. I'm gonna move forward with that assumption. I think, unless they type out every stratagem, which I doubt. But I have a sneaking suspicion that is how effects work in the new rules. The reason, obviously, for this one is that when you're selected to fight, your units melee attacks gain +1 attack, +2 strength, but it doesn't specify that they lose that effect at all. So I would imagine that it only works in that fight phase. Otherwise, you could just keep using it on the character and keep going. Nice. +1 attack and +2 strength. I mean, that's the +2 strength is a relevant buff. It's because you can put a lot of like the big characters to strength 12. You can even put the little characters to closer like 9 or 10, which is better against vehicles. If you combo this with another strength buff, you can go pretty hard. It does feel like a kind of low impact effect, but I think that's until you get a Demon Prince into somebody. And the Demon Prince goes to like wounding them on 3s, even though they're like a Land Raider. Especially because you can be +1 AP as well. So you can have 3 overlapping statistical improvements to your melee attack, which actually gets pretty crazy. They did specify, talking about detachment points, that the detachments discussed here are 1 detachment point detachments. They can be combined into a powerful force of hard-hitting elites or mixed with one of the options from Codex World Eaters, most of which will be 2. So I guess they didn't specify that they are all 2, so there certainly is a chance that Berserker Warband or, whatever that turns into ends up being 3 detachment points. We'll see. As somebody pointed out, the 3 detachment point option is interesting because it actually excludes use of that detachment in lower than Strike Force games because you only get 2 detachment points in Incursion, which is curious. We shall see.
Only 1 command point as well. +2 strength can in effect be +1 or sometimes even +2 to wound on the dice roll. And then, of course, more attack is more better. There's just no other way to say about it. As an orc,
more attack,
say,
more better.
You're
indeed.
rolling more dice. Things must be going well.
Can confirm.
When you take all this into account, your characters just go absolutely to the moon as far as efficacy for what they're supposed to be doing.
Really fun as well. And considering you can put this in an army that also includes Khan the Betrayer and Angron and then characters that are unlocking all of these buffs, so you can do some very scary stuff.
So there's some detachments like this that are coming out. Of course, you'll see this across many of our faction focuses that just seamlessly line into the existing army design for things coming into the Codex, where you're already taking characters. You're already taking a lot of characters for squads, and all this detachment is doing is if you pay the detachment point, your characters just get better. This is, in my opinion, a slam dunk for people wanting to just enhance what they were already taking. For people who are, starting the season fresh with World Eaters, I believe this is an excellent way.
Should talk about which detachments we can combo with Adam. That'd be cool. Then we'd know how many detachment points there are.
A well-rounded army where everything functions.
Talk about Berserker Warband.
Feel a World Eater.
Talk about Berserker Warband.
And then last up is a detachment.
Mention Berserker
that
Warband.
takes the army
No, don't move on. God damn it. You're leaving me hanging, bro. I want to see if you can stack these with +2 strength. That would be sick.
Slightly different direction if you wanted it to. So those first 2 were very much about make the army work even better in the way that you normally would expect it to. But Brazen Engines is a detachment that leans into the demonic vehicle aspect of the World Eaters, including things like the new Defiler, which obviously lots of people have been looking to include in their army.
Absolutely right. And of course, the
Yeah,
World
they
Eaters
have.
Defiler has been
Understatement of the century. Lots of people look to include defilers.
to all the other demon vehicles, but this one's ability is all about battle shock. So Terror of Khorne is the ability that you'll get attached to your demon vehicles. At the start of the fight phase, you can select an enemy unit engaged with this unit. They must take a battle shock at -1, and of course you cannot select the same unit to be affected by this ability more than once. Should you have, you know, 2 Mauler Fiends into the same unit, you can't make them take 2 battle shocks. But this is big because of how battle shock works now. So battle shock has changed. When previously at start your command phase, you would just become unbattle shock. So battle shocking someone towards the end of your turn
Didn't do much.
Didn't amount to
The
a huge
sold out of fire? Yeah, I have heard that. I want to get my hands on one, chat. But I don't, like, where the fuck do you get one? Besides, just like, I'm not going to print it. I want the kit because it's cool, but it's tough.
lot apart from, you know, helping you flip objectives, you know, score tactical cards, etc., etc. When now you must test to unbattle shock yourself, this becomes a fundamentally more powerful ability.
Yeah, so you could take, for example, a bunch of Mauler Fiends, Defilers, you could charge them off towards the objectives just by being on the objectives, even if you haven't claimed it with objective control. You can stop the enemies from scoring them potentially, which is really useful.
Correct. Or you can just front load this and then just park your
this is
things
a little
like your
bit
defilers, which
it's like engagement only. It's very limited. It's engagement only. Start of fight. There are some times, because it works both fight phases, like if your opponent's charging into your Lord of Skulls and then you make them take a battle shock check and they fail, like you turn off all of their abilities or their stratagems and stuff. But this, like, I think largely affecting your opponent end of your turn. I mean, it does require that they check later, but then also, like, you're charging them with a Defiler or something. Like, there's a pretty strong likelihood that they just die. So, I don't know. It feels to me like the goal should be to just kill them rather than like do battle shock manipulation. If we're already delivering demon engines to the fight, I think that the assuming that they'll live and like be battle shocked for a little bit doesn't feel super helpful. If this affected units nearby, so like you could charge the front line and then battle shock their objective, like their high OC units in the back or something, that would make a lot of sense to me. But the fact that this only hits the unit you're engaging, that you're about to just swing into, is like, okay. I guess it's good for like you're fighting like a bunch of guardsmen or something, but they're just like, they're gonna commissar out of it. It's fine. They're just gonna kill a guy and become unbattle shocked. Yeah, I don't know about this one.
I don't know if you've seen the size of the Defiler base, but it's pretty large. It's pretty hard to negotiate to getting to an objective around a Defiler. There's a lot of armies that will have to charge that Defiler in order to get on an objective.
It's not a place you want to charge. Really,
and you don't want to charge. It's not a great prospect. And then you get to say, take a battle shock. And that battle shock at -1, if they fail it, well, they don't accomplish their task anyway.
Yeah.
And it's adding a
I mean, that's like such a limited use case, though. If my Defiler's sitting on an objective in front of my opponent's army, they're going to shoot it, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe this ability is better than I'm giving you credit for, but like it being army wide is pretty good, but it definitely doesn't feel as high impact as something that just like improves your stats. Because like it's very matchup dependent. Like it requires you to get into engagement range or your opponent to want to get to engagement range. So it requires like it to be a melee matchup, one that they can't just like shoot you to death from far away. The battle shock, they have to be battle shockable. So like you have to create situations where the battle shocks aren't beneficial to them, or you have to play against like non-synapse Tyranids, right? Where like synapse creatures will just like pass anyway because they're battle shocking like equivalent of leadership 3 or 4. So it's like battle shock has to matter. Battle shock has to matter in the matchup. Melee has to matter in the matchup, and then they have to fail the test. It's like a lot of overlapping requirements here
into your opponent's plans that always has a psychological edge.
The battle shock sticking.
Obviously, there are some enhancements and some stratagems that help that out as well.
We'll see.
One of the enhancements is called Talons of Butchery. We talked a little bit about Cleave before.
Yes.
This is an upgrade that you can put onto a Mauler Fiend. It gives it Cleave 2.
So, a Mauler Fiend comes as a very specific model. It goes into big things and it makes the big thing go away. But what if it also made the
Oh,
Horde
that's
of-
so true, chat. I didn't even grok that, but you're so right. They're talking about defilers like the defiler is occupying the space of a circle, but it's not anymore. The objective is a giant building that the defiler can't stand on top of. So it's actually like worse. That's so true. That's because like a lot of the terrain templates have the terrain objective markers on the flanks with centralized. I believe, if I remember the diagram correctly, they have central like vertical elements, so you can't put a large base directly on top of it, so you can only toe on the edges, which means your opponent will always have the ability to get on the opposite edge of that objective marker, unless you're in front of the objective marker and then you're just like in their deployment zone. So I don't know. And then the central objective marker, I don't is too big for a defiler to block out, and also I think very difficult for them to navigate because it has walls on it. Although I think it can probably go through the middle of the central objective marker, at least on the terrain layouts that we've seen thus far. So we'll see. That's so funny. You're so right, chat. It's like I don't think the defiler is physically capable of zoning out objectives anymore. That's 10th edition mindset, Adam.
of things go away too, which is what this
that's a good
Mauler Fiend
call-out,
will
yeah.
now do, where it gets cleave 2. So is that 2 attacks per
So that's
unit?
2 attacks for every 5 things in the enemy unit. So if you went into a unit of Orc Boys that was 20 strong, you'd get another 8 attacks.
That's this many. That's a lot. That is a
It's this many.
crazy amount of extra
That's
attacks.
pretty good, especially like punching a 5-man and getting +2 swings is huge. What they don't mention here is whether or not the tendrils will get bonus attacks, because that would represent a very big change for how extra attack weapons work. Because they don't mention that, I assume that extra attack weapons work the same way, which is that their attacks characteristic cannot be improved. Which I guess probably would affect the gather attack dice step. We'll see how that ends up working. I don't know. Because it doesn't affect attacks, maybe it is, but I imagine that there will be a rule in there somewhere that says like attacks with extra when you're gathering attack dice for a weapon with extra attack, you don't add any bonuses in there. Grim Shady, thank you for the sponsorship. Welcome in. I hope you enjoy. Fascinating, chat. Oh, that's true. No, you're so right. It does say Mauler Fiend Fist. It doesn't say melee weapons. Yeah. So it wouldn't affect him anyway. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, fair enough. But at the very least, I think that going from, even in the cases where you're fighting like a 5-model utility unit, going from 8 to 10 attacks is actually huge, because you're probably like hitting on 3s, sustaining, and then winning on 2s. That means that you have a very strong likelihood of converting like 6-ish attacks, which is the break point that you need to be able to one-shot the unit. So I would be happy with this, I think, in a lot of cases. It makes the Mauler Fiends better at like skirmishing units as well. And if you can find a way to give them mobile so they could go through walls, I think those units could be very helpful.
A unit that really could not handle 20 Orc Boys previously to now...
you get bogged down for the whole game,
Yeah,
probably.
you would be there all game, and if you were on an objective, you would never have enough objective control to take it off the Orc Boys. They would just win that fight.
Unless they failed the
realistically,
battle
you'd
shock
probably be
test.
dead.
Correct. Now you're putting...
It's
oh,
just
you
lethal hit you to death.
you failed the battle shock test? Oh, no, you passed it. Well, I'll just kill you anyway. I'll go cleave.
And then last up, there's some stratagems, obviously, as you would expect. You've got one called Apoplectic Clarity, and this is something you can use on any of your demon vehicles, Mauler Fiends, defilers, anything like that. And basically, you can ignore debuffs.
All modifiers to weapon skill, ballistic skill, hit roll, and wound roll for 1 command point will be ignored either in shooting phase or fight phase. This is a fantastic ability. Of course, we know as designed, the ballistic skill characteristic of the World Eaters, Forge Fiends and Defilers is 4 rather than 3, but of course they're better in combat, they're World Eaters. This is allowing you to avoid one of the possible pitfalls for your, the Forge Fiends, for example, which if they hit on
cover.
4s and unit is in cover, they're going to hit on 5s now. Previously, they would still have hit on 4s, but your opponent theoretically had a better armor save on the unit. Well, now they were going to get hit on 5s, and I tell you what, it was
Yeah,
not
the better
gonna be
armor
amazing.
save was, in a lot of cases, didn't really matter that much because you're shooting like AP3 plasma weapons a lot of times, or las cannons or whatever. But obviously, this just giving you like a blanket ignore cover in addition to ignore other effects is kind of huge.
Amazing in some interactions. But now for one command point, you not only ignore that, but you ignore, when you have those high strength, high AP, 3 damage shots from things like your Forge Fiends, and they want to be going into things like Terminators, well, a lot of Terminator-like units have certain abilities that allow them to be -1 to wound if strength is higher than toughness.
Yeah.
This will ignore that as
Yeah,
well.
it's like the Space Wolf Terminators, right? The Wolfguard Terminators will have that built in. If Lions or Wrath of the Rock, survives the addition transition, it's all your things like your Dark Angels, heavy infantry and stuff like that. Blade of Ultramar, if that survives, these all get ignored by this.
As theoretically ignoring cover.
So it's things like your Aberrants and your Space Wolf Terminators,
Scarecrow
and your Deathwing,
Terminators,
that sort of thing,
Yeah.
And so I think this is a fundamental ability.
It's a really good call out. I think one way that they try to protect those heavy infantry a lot is giving them the -1 to wound, and being able to ignore cover and ignore -1 to wound is kind of huge.
Into this detachment.
Great. And the whole detachment basically means that you can really heavily lean into the idea of like an armored demonic engine legion, which is quite fun. And obviously still sprinkle it full of characters and Khorne Berserkers and all the rest of it.
Or you could go the other way and take your unit of characters and Khorne Berserkers, in your Berserker Warband, for example, and then just take like a
couple of Mauler Fiends.
A Mauler Fiend and a Defiler. And all of a sudden, that
Lord
Mauler
of
Fiend
Skulls.
has cleave 2, that Defiler can ignore all modifiers, and you are having
You're
a
off to the
field day.
races.
You're absolutely
Yeah.
off to the races. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Adam, thank you so much. That was World Eaters. We'll be back with more Warhammer 40,000 faction focuses very soon.
Well, the I don't know if I'm quite as excited about the vehicle stuff, especially because they did specify that it has the onslaught keyword, so I imagine that it's going to be it's not going to be stackable with Gortrek Onslaught or any of the other vehicle buffs that World Eaters can potentially have. So I don't know how useful this particular detachment will be. I do like the effects, like Cleave on a Mauler Fiend is great. The Ignore modifiers is great. Definitely no notes there. But the fact that it is like the detachment ability does feel a little bit limited in its use case. Like sort of Adam was like almost talking about it a little bit, where he's like, "Oh, take a battle shock check at the start of the fight phase. Oh, you passed. Well, I'll just kill you." And it's like, well, you would have killed them anyway, probably. So, this is it's all right, I guess. Compared to some of the other ones, where you're getting extra blessings of Khorne, or you're getting, +1 AP and melee and stuff, it definitely doesn't feel quite as exciting. I'm interested to see what you can stack these with. They didn't talk about what detachment points the detachments are. They did talk about that, quote, most of the Codex detachments would be 2 detachment points, but not which ones. So exactly how powerful this stuff is going to depend quite a bit on what the 2 detachment point detachments are going to be. Because if you could stack this with something like a Berserker Warband, it's going to be incredibly strong. But who knows? Let's find out. Oh, did they talk? Did I just skip right over the fact that were they talking about Berserker Warband chat? Am I stupid? Maybe I'm stupid.
You not only ignore that, but you would be...
Yep.
And so I think this is a fundamental ability. I think this is...
Means that you can really heavily lean into the idea of like an armored demonic engine legion, which is quite fun. And obviously still sprinkle it full of characters and Khorne Berserkers and all the rest of it.
Or you could go the other way and take your unit of characters and Khorne Berserkers, in your Berserker Warband, for example, and then just take like a couple of Fiend and a Defiler.
Chats. Let's go. They did talk about Berserker Warband. Yeah, I glossed my eyes glazed over when they started doing the outro discussion there. You are so right. Clearly, Warband is 3 detachment points. I don't know, chat. they did also say that you can combo them with Berserker Warband. Now, maybe one of those is wrong. I don't know, chats. We'll see. But they do explicitly state here that you can take
And
this
all of a
alongside
sudden,
Berserker
that Mauler
Warband.
Fiend has Cleave 2, that Defiler can ignore all modifiers, and all you just...
That's the problem with like not editing these. Is like the times where they do say something that might be wrong. Like we're never sure because it's just in the video. I think like the psychic keyword thing is like one that like sort of like keeps me thinking, because they did talk about psychic ignoring hit modifiers. They didn't mention ballistic skill modifiers, and cover is a ballistic skill modifier, but then they explicitly did state that cover ignores that psychic ignores cover. So like which one of these is correct, I don't know. It's been an interesting preview cycle to say the least, for sure. Trust Warcom interns, but you trust Zinch? I mean, yeah, like the question is like, who I think the answer, well, I would trust Adam to be correct more than the people writing Warhammer Community, because thus far we have gotten so many incorrect claims in the prose of these articles. So I don't know. I think I would trust the video more, but they've definitely also gotten stuff wrong in the video, just less things. So it is what it is. I don't know. It would be surprising to me if any of the detachments were 3 and it wasn't Berserker Warband. Like, I don't know what the thinking there would be, unless they are being like rebuilt, right? There's certainly the chance that they could just be being reworked in a fundamental way. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. If you can stack these with Berserker Warband, they will be very good. I will say that right now. Getting a bunch of overlapping plus strength and attack buffs is going to be huge. It does sound like, I mean, they did just say that you can do that, but like obviously a grain of salt, I guess, with all of this stuff. Which sucks to say, like, real talk. I hate being like, man, this thing that they said explicitly in an article, what if that's a lie? Which is like, come on, guys. Fucking learn your own game. I don't know. It is what it is. Demonkin might be 3. Ew. Could you imagine? Yikes. I hope that I mean, I guess like all right. Here's my tinfoil hat my tinfoil hat theory. They have said that I think basically all existing codex attachments are 2, which leads you to believe that Berserker Warband is going to be 2. They say that most of the World Eaters codex attachments are 2, but not, like, the implication there is that it's not all. What they don't say is that any of them are 3. So what it could be is that one or more, and I would probably rope like a Demonkin or maybe like a Gore Track into this, of the codex detachments are 1, and you can take them in addition with a 2 DP detachment. So like, we know that it is implied that not all of the detachments are 2, and it has been stated that you can play a 1-point detachment with a Berserker Warband. This feels like one of those like those math problems you get in school where it's like, if you have 3 apples and 1 apple is worth 7 oranges, and Jill has 13 blueberries, how many grapefruit do they have? It's all like transitive property stuff. So it's like, we know they have stated that you could take Berserker Warband with a 1-point detachment, which implies that it's 2. They've stated that they've implied that not all of the World Eaters Codex detachments are 2 detachment points, which means that there is a possibility that some of the Codex attachments are 1 detachment point. It also could be 3, but I would hazard a guess. One thing that I think could be very interesting, we were talking about it on the Discord the other day, is that the demon allied detachments, because they essentially only affect demon units, and a lot of the detachment abilities, like the ability to take demon units, it would be interesting if demon allied detachments end up being a 1 detachment point detachment, and part of the goal of taking them is that you get access to demonic allies. It costs you one of your detachment abilities, and typically they will only affect themselves. would it be really strong to take Corn Demon Kin and Berserker Warband together? Yeah, fuck yeah, it would be incredible. So that would probably be where I would be if that is the case, but it certainly opens up the possibility for that. Also, we don't know if any of these are being rewritten at all. As we have mentioned, even just with our Terminator squads, right? A lot of the codex stuff is going to need to be changed due to core rules anyway. So there is certainly the possibility that some of these detachments get nerfed so that their detachment point level can be reduced from what is the equivalent of 3 in 10th edition down to 1 or 2. So we'll see. Isn't there a really solid chance that the 1-point detachment previews aren't showing everything? Yeah. I think that it is likely that there is more stuff going on in the 1-point detachments. I think that they have indicated that most of them will have multiple enhancements and multiple stratagems. So I doubt that they will all be one ability. The 8-bound detachment might be one. Which one's that one? Oh, Possessed Slaughter Band. Oh yeah, that one's really bad. Honestly, I forgot this existed. Yeah. It's you have Blood Surge, but you don't have any survivability improvements. And I guess there's a -1 to wound strat for 2. Fuck me. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, interesting, chat. I think final verdict on World Eaters depends a lot on what the actual rules say, which they have helpfully not given us. So we'll see how that ends up looking. I hope that they're good. We'll see. That would be neat, but I have no actual idea. So, who knows? What are we talking about tomorrow? Tau Empire? Tau Empire is going to be fascinating, chat, because we have to see how they interact with the hidden mechanic. I saw some people prognosticating that Tau will fully ignore hidden, which would shock me. But we'll see. I do think personally, and I definitely understand that I'm biased about this because I play demons. But personally, I think it's a little silly. You can spot stuff that you can't physically target with ranged attacks. So I don't know. You can spot stuff that are in theory invisible, right? Because they have lone operative or whatever. I don't know how transformative that would be if Tau lost that ability or if other people gained hidden. But my hope is that they continue the trend of doing things like playing Retaliation Cadre, where you get shooting buffs when you're close to people. I also would love to see Tau be good at melee. I think that the Twin Lance has been an interesting, and post their massive nerfs, a relatively successful experiment where you can make battlesuits that can shoot their guns as melee attacks. I think that's neat, and I would love to see that be a thing that happens. It would be cool if that was a detachment ability. Battlesuit units can treat their ranged attacks to melee attack. Are they going to be that good? Maybe. They might be okay. Or shoot one gun. Maybe pick one, and you can use it as a melee attack. I think that'd be neat. That'd be pretty cool. It'd make Riptides really good at shooting, or good at melee. But you could also make it smaller guys. You could give them a keyword or something. There's definitely a design space for that. So I'm curious. Has it been mentioned if units can or do benefit from multiple detachment abilities? No. You get all your detachment abilities. Effectively, your detachment in 11th edition is using 10th edition terminology, your detachment ability in 11th edition is the combination of all the detachment abilities in the detachments that you've chosen. So right now, you choose one detachment when you're list building, and that is your detachment ability. In 11th edition, you choose up to 3 detachments, and you combine all those effects together, and those are your detachment abilities. Typically, they will only affect individual unit types or keywords or whatever, so they're not a blanket applying to your whole army, but in some cases they are, and in those cases it seems really good. Twin Lance has weapon skill 4? Yeah. Like, I guess it would be tough if, like, commanders could, like, 2+ weapon skill shoot you with fusion blasters in melee. That would be a little bit awkward. But, like, you know, I think it would be okay if, like, a Starsight Battlesuit team could, like, shoot with its fucking burst cannons in melee. I think that'd be okay. I don't know. It has felt to me... I've talked about this before, but it's felt to me like there is a lack of distinction between armored vehicles in the Tau Empire faction and battlesuits. Right now, like a Riptide battlesuit is just a superior tank, right? Like I could look at a Hammerhead. It's like, oh, it's an ion cannon and some smart missiles. Cool. And I could look at a Riptide, and the Riptide has an ion cannon and some smart missiles, and also full action shoot, ignore modifiers. It has like a random carapace weapon, and it has fly, or they all have fly, it doesn't matter. And it has like a better melee profile, and it has a Nova reactor, and you're like, why the fuck did we build a tank? But if the benefit of a battle suit is that it can shoot, it's like the reason that we have constructed a big robot is because we can use its guns in close combat. That would like make a reason for it to exist. And then like that, the Crisis battlesuits and the Riptides and things you can angle as being the more frontline short range units, and the tanks are explicitly long range guns. And that's where you like send the design space. I think that would make the faction more well-rounded, and I think it would make it more interesting than it currently works. So hopefully that is a mechanic that we see explored in 11th edition. Maybe not in the like index version where all this new stuff is going to come out as digital releases most likely, but maybe in a new codex. That's the direction they go in. I think that would be cool. Love the idea of more suits getting to use their guns and melee weapons. Yeah. Why can Tau do it, but not my guys? Like, I don't know. Because nobody else has battle suits. Yeah. I don't know. But the other thing, too, is, like, Tau don't have... Unless, like, outside of, like, explicitly Crutox Rampagers, right? Tau do not have, like, a dedicated melee unit, right? And I don't think that it's good or constructive game design for a faction to lose access to an entire phase of the game. And I thought about this with like the Psychic phase too. I thought it was silly that some factions, like back in 9th edition, straight up did not interact with the Psychic phase. I think that there should be, it should be what's the word? Like a spectrum, right? Your utility in the fight phase should be lower if you have a greater utility in the movement or the shooting phase. However, I don't think it should be 0. And for Tau, for the longest period of time, it has been literally 0. Besides like some weird like shoot and scoot effects or like getting onto objectives, right? Like normal fight phase stuff. They just didn't do any damage, right? At all, period. And I don't think that's interesting. Like, what the fuck? Like an Astra Militarum army can have Attilan Rough Riders and Bulgrin and all these dedicated units that are supposed to get a melee. Even their regular dudes have like mines and reactive effects and snare nets and all this stuff that affects them in the fight phase. Like even your normal ass guys can get fixed bayonets and get a +1 weapon skill bonus. Not that it's good, but it does exist. And they have like power fists on their sergeants and things. Tau are like, nah, we don't do that. Like, come on, what are we doing here? Just let them have a thing that's okay in melee. Not even good. I don't want to see Tau charging like one shot at you in melee, but like, let them roll attacks that aren't a joke. Like, come on. I don't know. Tau should have some dudes with pistols and knives. Yeah, I like those. Like, there's all those like cool Kroot conversions where it's like a bionic out fire warrior with like a knife, but like Kroot are also a joke. Like back in the day, and this has never been true essentially, but like the adage is like, well, Tau don't do melee because they have Kroot, and Kroot can do the melee. But it's like one attack, strength 4, AP 0, 1 damage. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Why do you even have that? Kroot are here to obsec an objective and then die. Like, why do they even make an attack at all? It's stupid. I don't know. Anyway, chance. They have wet noodle arms. Right, well, that's why they build a, like, 2-story tall exoskeleton to be good at fighting, right? And then they mount guns not on the back of the exoskeleton, right? Not on like additional appendages, on the arms of the exoskeleton, so you can shoot people that are next to you with them. Like it makes so much sense to me. Maybe I'm a silly goober, but I feel like it's time for a change in how we design Tau codexes. Anyway, chat, I think that's it for me today. I'm going to be live later. We're doing another Breachstorm learning game. We did one yesterday because we're doing a new player league in the Discord server. So I'm going to be teaching another player how to play Breachstorm. That's going to be over on Twitch in like an hour, like 1 hour, I think. And then, yeah, you can expect some more 11th edition content from me later this week. And yeah, I'll talk about that then. So cheers. Have a good one. Keep it classy, folks. Have happy wargaming. And I'll see you when we talk about Tau. Cheers.